So, okay, first of all, I am honored to have been invited by Mr. Duncan to be part of your Gentlemen's Club. And thank you for the lovely introduction, Mr. Murphy. I appreciate that. So, we'll be a little bit interactive, guys. Why would you think Mr. Duncan would invite me to come here to speak? Anybody? Yes?
Because you're a successful man with family.
I'm a successful man with a family. That's a possibility. It's a possibility. So how do we define success? Matthew?
By following what we want to do in our dreams through Christian values and following values of the different.
Okay, following our dreams through Christian values. Yes.
Hard work.
Hard work. It could be part of it, certainly. Yes.
Setting a goal and going and achieving that goal.
Setting a goal and achieving that goal. Good. Good. So I'll start off with, guys, I'm really nothing special. Okay, I've done a few things in my life. I have raised a great family. I've been part of raising a great family with my wife Vicky. I've achieved a couple things along the way. I've tried to live my life according to Christian values and work hard along the way. But I'll do my best today to try to share with you some of the things that I felt like have really helped me. And one of the things that I learned from West Point. So I mentioned West Point as the institution that I graduated from and then was commissioned as an officer in the Army. So everybody familiar with West Point? Anybody know about West Point at all? A couple of you? Okay. So West Point is the military academy for the United States Army. So not all of the United States Army officers graduate from West Point, but it is the federal institution for officers for the Army. And it is located in West Point, New York. Anybody know where West Point, New York is? Guesses? What's that?
West Point, New York.
It's in West Point, New York. Good. Where is West Point, New York at? Yes. It's in the southern part of the state. So it's about 40 miles north of New York City. Okay? Does anybody know of a famous, can you name a famous, somebody who's famous that graduated from West Point? Yes, Joe.
Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth?
Baseball player.
No, I don't think Babe Ruth graduated from West Point, but that's a good guess. Yes.
You?
Well, I'm not a famous person, but I appreciate the compliment. Yes.
Did Mr. Duncan?
Mr. Duncan did not graduate from West Point, although he is a famous person.
I know, at least two.
Okay, Mr. Duncan, since you're a history buff, go ahead.
Oh, General Douglas MacArthur, George S. Patton, Omar Bradley.
Omar Bradley. Anybody heard of these names?
Patton. Easy.
You've heard of Patton, right?
Seen that movie.
Okay. Anybody? So West Point has had the most presidents of the United States graduated from West Point than any other institution. So some of the presidents like Dwight Eisenhower, right? Ulysses S. Grant. Anybody know who Ulysses Grant is? Right? U.S. Grant. Another American president that people often forget about that graduated from West Point, Jefferson Davis. Anybody know who Jefferson Davis is? Who he was, I should say.
We're just getting that name.
Who is-
Know of him, I don't know exactly.
Jefferson Davis was the president of the Confederates. Yep, he was the president of the Confederate States of America. So, an American president graduated from West Point. Robert Lee graduated from West Point. More recent history, like Mr. Duncan said, Eisenhower, Bradley, and World War II time frame. John Pershing graduated from West Point. More recent history, like my time frame. Anybody heard of Norman Schwarzkopf? He was the commander of Allied forces during the First Iraqi War. Got to listen to him speak. He's a graduate from West Point. Anybody heard of Coach Mike Krzyzewski? You heard of Coach K? He's often referred to as Coach K, basketball buff. You know where he graduated from? Graduated from West Point. Yep, played basketball at the academy. He has been the Olympic basketball coach twice, and I think the winningest college basketball coach ever. So, yes?
Where's the Coach Camp?
No, different coach. He coaches at Duke.
Duke
Coaches at Duke University. Yep. So a little bit different coach, but Coach K is a pretty famous West Point graduate. So I'm saying all this not to try to bring, not to glorify myself because I went to the same place, but to share with you this. I went to an institution that I have a lot of respect for and has a tremendous history of teaching leadership. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is leadership. So why would I talk to a group of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders at St. Michael's and the Gentlemen's Club? Why would I talk to you gentlemen about leadership? What do you think? Yes?
Because it can lead us to a successful career.
It can lead you to a successful career, correct? Anybody has any guesses? Why would I talk to a group of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders about leadership? Okay, let me share with you one of my favorite quotes ever. And I think this is fitting. For Gentlemen's Club. Anybody heard of a philosopher named Edmund Burke? You heard of a philosopher named Edmund Burke, Mr. Burke? Okay, so Edmund Burke's, one of his most famous quotes is this: "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." I'm going to repeat that and let that sink in a little bit. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Okay, now listen to your pledge card this morning, and I want to share with each of you that inside each of you is the heart of a good man. Inside each and every one of you is the heart of a good man. Okay? Now, your choice every day is to get up and choose to be a good man or not. And what God desires from you, in my opinion, what God desires from you is every day for you to get up and choose to be a good man, because that's a choice. Okay? And when you make that choice to then take a leadership stand, that takes leadership, personal leadership, to make that choice to be a good man and act in a good way every day. So, to that end, so that's how I'm going to tie that together. That's why I'm going to talk about leadership with a group of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, because I think it's important for each of you to understand how to be a leader. Anybody consider themselves a leader? I mean, Jack, you're the president of the club, right? So you're a leader. Any of you guys that are members, do you consider yourselves leaders? You consider yourself a leader, Matthew? You guys consider yourselves leaders over here? I saw leadership over lunch here. Now, leadership can be good or it can be misguided, okay? So, when you are influencing people, that's leadership. You can influence people to try to break a record like you guys were doing over here, right? Okay? Perhaps a little bit overboard, maybe trying to lead a young man down a path where he might get himself sick, but still leadership, okay? Still leadership. Okay, so not to dwell on that too much, but every day when you gentlemen interact with each other, when you gentlemen interact with other people in the school, people in society, you are exhibiting leadership. And that's what I ask of you, is to exhibit leadership as a Catholic, as a Christian, and then as a Catholic, as a member of St. Michael's, and as a member of this gentleman's club. Exhibit leadership. Stand up every day, wake up every morning, and choose to be a good man. Okay? So, I'll tie this in with one of the lessons that I learned from West Point. One of the fundamental classes that I took, that every cadet at West Point learns, and again, talked about some of the very famous people, some of the people that have formed this country into what it is, have graduated from this academy. And one of the things they taught us, foundational leadership, they taught us was the 4 C's of leadership. So we're going to cover the 4 C's that West Point teaches as part of their standard curriculum for leadership. Okay? And I'm going to tie that in, the 4 C's, I'm going to tie that in between my military experience and kind of what they taught us from a military perspective. I'm going to tie that into my business experience relative to the 4 C's. And then the last aspect, I'm going to talk to you guys about how I see that each one of those C's applying to your daily lives as members of this gentleman's club and as Catholic young men. Okay? Does that make sense? So we're going to go through each one of the C's, and I'm going to talk about what they taught me as a leader, as a military leader, how that has affected me in my business, and then what I think that should, how I think that should apply to you as young Catholic men. You got it so far?
Yeah.
4 C's, 3 aspects of each C. Okay. So the very first C is courage. It makes sense? It's a military school. We're going to go to battle. First C is courage. Okay? Now, when we're talking military training and military school, we're talking battlefield courage. And one of the misunderstandings about courage on the battlefield is that the absence of fear is not courage. Do you know what the absence of fear is?
Stupidity.
Stupidity, yes, or insanity, one of the two. Okay? Courage is being afraid and doing your job anyhow. Are you a police officer, sir?
Former Army.
Former Army, right? So
Not West Point.
you're familiar with this, though, right?
I retired last Thursday.
Right. Okay. Well, congratulations on your career.
Thank you.
So courage is being afraid and choosing to do the right thing anyhow. Okay? Choosing on the battlefield to move forward, choosing to continue to gain the objective. That's the military aspect of it. But as military officers, they also taught us that it wasn't just battlefield courage, it also included moral courage. So as an example, as a military officer, they taught me it was my duty, especially for my soldiers, to disobey an immoral order that I received from above. If I felt like it was immoral, it was my duty, my job as a military officer to not do that. Even though I might face court-martial for disobeying an order. If I felt like it was immoral, then I should not do that. So that's part of that moral courage. Now, when it comes to business, obviously, I'm not, so we talked about the military aspect of it. The business aspect of courage, obviously, I'm not dealing with battlefield courage in my business, right? But I am dealing with angry customers, I'm dealing with upset employees, and I have to have the courage every day to confront those situations, right? I have to pick up the phone and call that angry customer and deal with his frustration or her frustration and address it in a professional manner, right? I have to have the courage to deal with those moral issues, and sometimes when you're dealing in business, it can be a little bit gray as to what the right thing to do is or not. I have to have the courage to address it in a moral way. So that's the business aspect of courage. Courage as a young man, as a young Catholic, okay? I think from primarily what we're talking about there is morality, right? So we're talking about standing up for what you believe in as a Catholic, what you've been taught, and standing up for each other, okay? One of the things that Jesus did when he was on this earth is he went to the people on the margins. Do you know what I mean when I say people on the margins? What? Somebody give me a guess as to what do you think I mean with people on the margins? Yes.
People that were off to the side didn't really mean that much.
People that were off to the side didn't really mean that much. That's a good answer. The people that were being cast out by everybody else, the people that are being rejected, the nerds, right? I was a nerd. I was a nerd when I was in school. I was not very popular, and I'm okay with that, and I'm okay saying that right now. But if you guys in the Gentlemen's Club want to be leaders, and I'm not saying you need to go hang out with the people that are off to the side and don't have any friends, or the people that maybe smell a little bit and don't put on all the proper deodorant or look a little different, but stand up for them. Make sure nobody's picking on them. Maybe say hi to them. Be nice to them occasionally. It makes a big difference to them and to you and to the culture of St. Michael's and the Gentlemen's Club. Okay, so that's the first C. It's courage. Okay? You guys better remember these C's. Okay? First C is courage. Second C is competence. So as a leader of the military, in the battlefield, in the military, competence was exceptionally important. I better know my job. If I'm the officer in the field and I'm making decisions at an instant, when I make a mistake, what happens when I make a mistake on the battlefield? People die. When I made a mistake in the battlefield, or when I made a mistake in the battlefield, people could have died. Now, thankfully, I went through a deployment, and that didn't happen. Thankfully, none of my guys, I brought them all home. I'm also thankful that I didn't have to kill anybody. So I made through that deployment successful, in my opinion. Okay? But when you make a mistake in the battlefield as a military officer, people die. So you better know your job, right? And then when you do make a mistake, you have to move beyond it. You can't just freeze up. You have to have the intestinal fortitude to say, okay, I just screwed up and somebody died, but I got to keep going because everybody's counting on you to make those decisions. Okay? That's competence. You got to know where you're at, know where you're going, what the objective is, what the right decision is, and move forward. As a business leader, people are looking to me for competence. Okay? They're looking for me to make the right decision. They're looking for me to provide guidance and direction for our business. So, from a business perspective, I'm involved in a business right now with farm machinery, the farm economy. Maybe you're familiar with the farm economy. I know you are, Reese, right? Okay. The farm economy is tough right now. Machinery sales in Indiana, so for us, our industry has dropped 70%. 7-0. It's a third, less than a third of what it was 4 years ago. People are looking to me for guidance. They're looking for me to make the right decisions and guide our business unit through the right way. They're also looking for me to address the issues and have courage, like I said, for the first C as well. So competence is exceptionally important. So competence as a young man, as a young Catholic in the Gentleman's Club. What do you think that means? What would competence include in the Gentleman's Club at St. Michael's? Yes.
To speak up in front of a lot of people.
To speak up in front of a lot of people. I would say that's probably more courage than competence, but that could include competence. What do you guys think would be competence? Yes.
To like know your faith.
To know your faith. Very good. Say that again.
To know your faith.
To know your faith. Then how do you learn your faith?
By listening in school.
Listening in school. That's one good way. What else?
Practicing it.
Practicing it. That's another great way. Hadn't thought about that, but that's exceptional. There's one that I'm really thinking of that I want you guys to think about as young Catholics. Yes.
Listening in Mass.
Listening in Mass. One more. We don't do this as often as we should as Catholics, and our Protestant brethren do it a lot more than we do. What am I thinking of? Anybody? Yes.
Reading the Bible.
Reading the good book. Read the Bible. I'm not saying memorize all your scripture and be able to quote it verse for verse for verse, but spend some time reading that book. The instruction book of life, it's right there. Okay? Know your Bible. Listen in Mass. Listen in school. Practice that competence. You are young Catholic men. You have the heart of good men. Know how to behave. Right? Know what to do. And it's in that book. Just take the time to read it. Okay? So the first C was what?
Courage.
Second C was what?
Confidence.
Okay. Third C, this one's a little ambiguous. I don't know if you guys will know this one right off the bat. It's candor. C-A-N-D-O-R. Does anybody know what candor means? You know what candor means? Okay. It's a tough one. It's a word that's not very often used. So, candor includes not only being honest and having integrity, it also means being forthright. When I say forthright, I mean that you speak up and you address people when you see something that's not being handled in the right way, or if you see somebody who you need to sit down and talk to, that you talk to them in an honest way and you address it right up front rather than hiding from those issues. Candor is a bit ambiguous, okay? How would you, as an ex-military person, how would you describe candor?
Speaking up voluntarily when needed or when something good would potentially come from it, and being willing to say things that sometimes the other person doesn't want to hear, but it's truth and it's what they need to hear for things to go well.
I think that's a great point. Can you say that last part again?
I'll try. Sometimes it's important to be able to talk to somebody who does not want to hear the thing you have to say, but it's important they hear it so that things go well.
Correct. That's a great way to say it. I hadn't thought about those exact words. That is a great way to say it. Not doing it with malicious intent at all. You're not saying it to hurt their feelings at all. You're doing it for the betterment of the unit, of your group, and it needs to be said. Right? Yes?
So is it kind of like not sugarcoating something?
Yes, it's kind of like not sugarcoating something, although there is a proper way to address an issue with a person rather than being, sometimes people can be overly blunt. Okay? So you also want to talk about these issues with the intent to protect the ego of the person you're working with as well, right? Your goal is not to drag them down. Your goal is to try to build up the group, okay? But you have to handle yourself with integrity. You have to handle yourself with honesty. You have to lead by example. And then you have to have the courage to address those issues and speak up to somebody when something needs to be handled for the betterment of the group. Okay? And you can kind of see already how all these intertwine with one another, right? Yes.
So it'd be kind of like if you did something wrong, you would go up and face it and tell them what you did, even if they haven't noticed yet.
That's another great way. That's really a good example. Say that again. But
So like if you do something wrong or something is wrong, you go up and face it, even if they don't know about it yet.
Yep.
Authorities.
He brings up a really good point about if you do something wrong yourself, that you have to be man enough to say, yeah, I screwed it up. I did wrong. And you don't have to get up in front of a whole group and tell everybody publicly I did wrong. But there are times when I have had to go to my boss and tell my boss, Mr. McAllister, I'm kind of ashamed of my behavior. I really didn't handle that business transaction with the best of integrity. And I'm sorry for that, and I'm going to do better. But just so you know, you may have an angry customer call because I didn't do my job well. And I need to address that rather than run and hide from it. That's candor. Does that make sense? You guys understand?
Yeah.
It's kind of an ambiguous term, but it's very, very important for leadership. And you can see how this is important in a military aspect. I don't think I have to even explain. Military, business, and as a young Catholic, young man in the Catholic faith, how that is an important attribute to be a leader. Does that make sense? Okay. First C is what?
Courage.
Then
Competence.
third one is
Candor.
candor. Last one is commitment. Last C is commitment. Okay? So as a military officer, I have to be committed. My commitment includes watching out for my soldiers and making sure that they're taken care of before I'm taken care of. Right? I was always the last in the chow line. I was the last to go to sleep. I was the first to get up. Right? If we were running short on water, I didn't drink. That's the way it worked. Because it's my job, if it was my job to make sure that they were all taken care of. So my commitment was to my people, my commitment was to the mission, and I had to be fully committed. For them to follow me into those bullets and into the fire, they had to know that I'm fully committed to them, right? So that's the military aspect of it. From a business aspect, commitment means that I get up every day and I go to work and I show up to work on time. I work more hours than most everybody else consistently. I work more hours than most everybody else because I'm the leader and I'm in charge. I'm committed to the cause. I'm committed to making our business successful. And one of the things that people ask me about, as a business leader, I said, okay, so what's your job as a business leader? And my response is this. It's most different, and I think this is from my military background. My response is this. I have 75 people that work in my business unit at McAllister. And I believe that my job as the business leader is to ensure the livelihood and the income of 75 families. That's my job. Make sure those 75 families have proper income, first and foremost. I'm also there to take care of customers. I'm there to look after all the assets that Mr. McAllister has entrusted me with. First and foremost, I have 75 families that are looking to me to make sure that they have proper income and a livelihood to look at to sustain them. So, commitment from you guys.
Do my homework.
Do your homework. Yes, do your homework. Stay on top of it. But specifically, as a Catholic young man, what do I want you to be committed to? Yes. Committed to God. Yes.
Committed to going to Mass.
Commit to go to Mass. Correct. Yes.
Committed to being just a good Catholic in general.
Commit to being a good Catholic in general. Yes.
Committed to stand up to stand up for those who need it.
Correct. Yes.
Committed to make sure you always do all of your schoolwork.
Good. Yes.
Committed to my family.
Commit to your family. Yes. Go ahead. Anybody?
Committed to doing your schoolwork, but also doing it as well as you can.
Anybody else?
To your friends.
Commit to your friends. Overall, you guys are hitting on this. Commit to the faith. Okay? Commit to being Catholic. That's what I ask of you. Commit to being fully Catholic. And give yourself to God, give yourself to Christ. That takes commitment, right? That takes commitment not only to go to school, to go to Mass, and do all those things, but commit yourself to it. Okay? This is a Catholic school, a Catholic institution, and you are all good, young Catholic men. So get up every day and choose to be good, young Catholic men. And if you do, Greenfield and St. Michael's and wherever community you're part of will benefit from your leadership. Thank you.